All right, you might want to lower the lights for this one. Seriously, because today we're unearthing a case file that history has desperately, almost obsessively tried to bury. We are breaking down the deeply unsettling, documented events of a place hidden away deep within the forested mountains of the United States. A place completely untouched by modern medicine for over 70 years. We are diving into the killing source material surrounding the Black Ridge Asylum. And I'll tell you right now, this isn't just your standard story about an abandoned building. Oh no, this is a documented descent into an absolute architectural nightmare. Welcome to The Explainer.
2:13 a.m. Now, in the context of our source material, you need to understand that this isn't just some random timestamp. It is the absolute anchor point for the paranormal activity at Black Ridge. According to terrified local residents, every single night, when the clock strikes exactly 2:13 in the morning, the decaying, completely powerless hospital speakers suddenly hum to life. And this calm, phantom voice echoes out through the entire valley, calling out for only one specific individual.
Some places don't remember your face. They remember your name. The local lore surrounding Black Ridge is adamant about this. They insist that anyone who dares to cross those rusted iron gates to search for the identity of this mysterious patient, well, they never return the same. It's almost like the asylum itself has a memory of its own.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The Legend of Black Ridge. If you look at the official records, they are incredibly, suspiciously sparse. It just says the facility was unceremoniously abandoned in 1954. That's it. The government, the medical boards, honestly, history itself chose to simply forget it ever existed. But, as is usually the case, the urban legend fills in the terrifying gaps that the paperwork left behind. That loudspeaker we talked about, the one that kicks on at 2:13 a.m., it is always calling for patient 27. Every single physical document regarding this specific patient conveniently vanished when the hospital closed. But the locals know. The building remembers.
Part 2. The 2008 investigation.
Fast forward to the year 2008. The source material documents this intense expedition by 4 seasoned urban explorers, Daniel, Mason, Olivia, and Ryan. Their sole objective? To demystify Black Ridge Asylum and prove, once and for all, that it was just a rotting structure of concrete and wood. And this brilliantly illustrates their mindset. Look at their loadout. 4 4K cameras, 2 night vision rigs, an incredibly sensitive audio recorder. They approached this whole thing with pure logic and technological preparedness. They were armed to the teeth to capture empirical evidence. But as you'll soon see, all the technology in the world cannot protect you when the laws of reality literally just
So they breach the main doors, right? And immediately this freezing wind sweeps through the hall. Down on the ground floor at the nurse's station, it was dead silent. I mean, pin drop silent. Olivia opens up this thick, dust-covered register book containing hundreds of patient numbers. But guess what? Page 27 had been violently ripped out. They kind of joked about it, trying to break the tension. But then, from the pitch-black darkness up on the second floor, they hear the distinct, heavy, metallic sound of a wheelchair rolling on its own. They head upstairs to check it out, and suddenly, their fully charged cameras begin to violently glitch. And then, completely without power, the hallway speaker crackles to life. Patient number 27. Report to treatment room.
Part 3. Inside room 27.
Following a literal set of wet footprints down the hall, the crew arrives at a heavy, rusted steel door left just slightly ajar. Inside, their flashlight beams sweep across a rusty bed fitted with thick leather belts, and there are these deep, frantic scratch marks just gouging the walls. The sensory details in the source material here are absolutely suffocating. Over in the corner, Olivia spots a wooden cabinet containing a single dust-covered medical file. The label simply reads, Patient 27. Daniel opens it up. Every single page is entirely blank, except for the very last page. Written in thick red ink is a simple, chilling phrase. He was never a patient.
The exact moment Daniel reads those words out loud, that massive, heavy steel door slams shut behind them. Bam! Total darkness. Their flashlights just die, one by one, leaving only the eerie, washed-out green glow of their night vision. The temperature in the room plummets so fast, you can actually see their breath fogging up the lenses. Then, that heavy, rusted hospital bed in the center of the room begins to shake violently. The leather belts are tightening all on their own. And then, their audio recorder picks up this incredibly clear, whispered audio.
One must stay.
What the night vision cameras captured next is pure nightmare fuel. Olivia looks down at the camera monitor and just screams. Surrounding them, closing in on them in the room, are dozens of blurred, ghostly figures dressed in hospital gowns. And each entity had a number branded right onto their chest. 12, 18, 34, 51. But standing at the very front of the group, patient 27 slowly lifted his head. His eyes were entirely pitch black, just empty voids. He stared directly into the lens of the camera, and without his lips ever moving, a voice boomed and echoed through the frozen air of the room. "You opened the door." Instantly, every single piece of their equipment went completely dead.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Part 4, the 1932 incident. Mere seconds different. The peeling paint is gone, the lights in the hallway are glowing brightly, the corridors are suddenly bustling with doctors and nurses in vintage old-school uniforms. The camera's internal clock, it's completely frozen at exactly 2:13 a.m. The crew hasn't just uncovered a ghost, they have somehow slipped backward through time, right into the middle of 1932, the year of the original incident. And the craziest part? They are completely invisible to the hospital staff of the past. They're just standing there as phantom observers in a historical nightmare.
In this terrifying vision of the past, they watch a doctor rushing toward room 27 alongside two nurses. Inside, a man with a completely bandaged face is screaming in absolute agony. The terrified doctors are practically shouting over him. If he gets out, no one is safe. Don't treat him like a patient. He was never human. They plunge this massive syringe into the bandaged man. Instantly, all the lights blow out again. A deafening shriek literally shakes the foundation of the building. When the lights finally flicker back on, the room is completely empty. No doctors, no nurses, no bandaged man, only the number 27 painted on the floor in fresh blood. Part 5, Patient 28. Shatters here as the four friends make a desperate, blind sprint for the main doors to escape. As they frantically scramble down the dark stairwell, Mason suddenly stops dead in his tracks. He turns to the others, confused, and whispers, "Did you hear my name?" And then, from the endless darkness of the corridor, a clear voice calls out, "Mason." Hypnotized, with his eyes completely glazed over, Mason slowly walks away from his friends, stepping backward into the pitch-black hallway. Daniel and Ryan try to grab him, but the darkness simply swallows him whole. He vanishes entirely, just gone.
Daniel, Olivia, and Ryan finally burst through the front doors, escaping out into the freezing night air. Gasping for breath, they turn back to look up at the asylum. Up in the second floor,
Snapped violently back to the present timeline, Daniel feels a hand grab his shoulder. He spins around. Nothing. But on the camera screen, that black-eyed entity is rapidly approaching them. The pacing completely
floor window, staring down at them, is the entity. On its chest is the number 27. But standing right beside him is a brand new figure in a hospital gown. The next morning, heavily armed police search the entire facility, top to bottom. They find absolutely no trace of Mason, no footprints, no evidence of a struggle, nothing. But all they find in the medical records room is a single, newly generated, dust-covered file. And inside that file is a photograph of Mason.
Now, what's really interesting about this next detail is the terrifying implication of the number. It changes absolutely everything, because when Daniel looked up at that window the night before, the new figure standing next to 27 had a freshly painted number on its chest, 28. Mason didn't just disappear into the shadows of the building. The asylum absorbed him. He became the newest inmate in a hospital that never truly closed its doors.
This entire case file leaves us with a chilling realization. Black Ridge Asylum doesn't just hold the past, it is actively hunting for its future. The source text leaves us with one final, deeply unsettling thought, and I want to pose it directly to you. Think about it. If you ever find yourself near an abandoned place, and the clock strikes exactly 2:13 a.m., and from the darkness, you hear a voice calling your name, will you answer? Because as these files show, they might not just be calling out to you, they might be writing your name on their next blank file. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and please stay safe.